updates. Good morning, Tobago. Wake up with
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Well, viewers, as you heard from our news earlier in the program, we have some gun violence happening here in Tobago. We had our second murder over the weekend. And then last night, we recorded a third murder from someone who was shot last week.
Yes.
And then he finally succumbed to his injuries. So on set with us, we have Inspector, oh Lord. Yes, we have Inspector Anderson Alfred on with us. And good morning and welcome to you.
Good morning to you and your viewers. Thank you for having me.
So give me an update on what's been happening. First of all, with the murder that occurred on Saturday night, the body that was found Sunday morning in the drain in Logwood Park.
Well, what I can say, first, from the TTPS, we want to express our sincere condolences to the family members, friends, and associates of the departed. We are on the case as we speak. We have persons that are in our custody that is assisting us with our investigations, and we have activated all systems in place, particularly the victim and witness support unit. Their tasks and responsibilities to convey information from the police to the family of the persons that the victims of these murders. So we have the social aspect of it in place and the investigative aspect in place, working together.
Mm-hmm. Do we know of any idea of what was the motive for this murder?
No, the motive at this time is not clear, as it is. The investigator is within the remit of the investigators, and they are working on all these. And we want to, at this point, thank the members of the public, because without their information, their assistance, we could have gone nowhere with this. But civic-minded individuals came forward and assisted and continue to assist us with our investigations.
And last night, we got the reports that we recorded a third murder.
Yes, yeah.
Like I said, someone who was shot in Bethel last week finally succumbed to his injuries.
Yes, that is, and of course, condolences to their family as well. And we are on the case, and in all, I could say for Tobago, the community know that all our homicide reports, we have persons of interest that is engaged at this time by the investigators. So we have persons that are in custody and some are being interviewed. And the information is coming in slowly, but we are making good progress with all 3 reported homicides.
And any indication as to what led to that shooting?
No, not at this time. We don't have that information.
Not at this time.
No.
And in terms of the first murder that we had for the year, where is the investigations with that concerned?
That is quite active, as a matter of fact, but I don't want to give out too much at this time, but it is quite active, and all the units that are involved in investigations are working together. And I want to say that we are indeed making tremendous progress, and the persons that are concerned about the information that sometimes that we have to, for the interest of the integrity of the investigation, we have to keep back the information to keep it within the remits of all the investigators, to us to preserve the flow of misinformation. Sometimes we get misconstrued on the outside and compromise the investigation. So we just want to assure you that the investigations are progressing well.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's a concern that these murders indicate that there's a rise in gun violence here in Tobago. Should people be afraid?
No, well, we want to remove the concept and the perception of the fear of crime generally. So what I can do, I can bring some good news for you. Just before the start of the Easter weekend, we commenced several exercises, raids and searches, and they were very successful. We seized a large quantity of marijuana in Crown Point District together with a high-powered weapon. This high-powered weapon had 10 live rounds of ammunition. And as we calculate, each ammunition could take a life. So we actually saved 10 lives over the weekend. And congratulations to the Tobago Division and the administration and the gold, silver, and bronze commanders in our division that put together this wonderful operation plan so that this Easter weekend and throughout Tobago was extremely safe.
Now, we saw that at the start of the Easter weekend, we had a lot of the inspectors, vehicle inspectors, and so on coming up over to Tobago. And then there was a concern that, the police should be spending less time checking vehicles and more time solving crimes. How do you respond to that argument? events.
It's a necessary activity. Firearms and criminal elements, persons and items are conveyed in vehicles on the roadway. So when we do road checks, it is for this ease in solving these crimes. The more checks that we do, the easier for us to identify and to locate criminal elements, whether they be criminal individuals or items of criminality. So it is important that we conduct these exercises. These crimes migrate, right? And there's no crime shop, meaning that it is not a brick and mortar activity. It is a moving activity. So therefore, we have persons on the street or officers on the street. Particularly, over this past week, we had officers from Trinidad, our brothers in police, the Guard and Emergency Branch, and the Interagency Task Force working together with us to add that extra layer of support.
Now, did we see a lot of arrests coming out of those roadblocks? Because there was quite a few roadblocks happening in Tobago over the weekend. Did we have a lot of arrests?
No, what we get are mostly traffic offenses, right? And we look at that as a success, right? Because we weigh two measures: police activity versus the police presence. And they both work hand in hand. They both have their place. So the public will be sometimes impeded or hindered for just a few moments, to make sure that you are safe. Because you would like to know ahead of you is a car that does not contain a firearm or someone who is about to commit an offense. You want to be safe in the roadway. Because sometimes you may think that you are safe within your vehicle, but there are incidents where persons are robbed on the streets, when they are stopped, where someone bump you from behind, and when you come out, you are robbed. So therefore, when we stop a vehicle on the roadway, we carry out an activity called a stop and search, or a street interview, and therefore that initiates by our sense of observation whether this vehicle should be detained a longer time than the other, or to just allow to go on their way.
And now when it comes to like speed guns and that sort of thing, do we yet have a speed gun in Tobago, or is
Yes,
that...
we have devices. We have qualified officers in Tobago Division are highly trained in using this, where we say the monitors, the speed monitors, and it is updated, and they are trained, they are certified and recertified, because our roadways are is the roadmap to our destination, and we want to ensure that you are safe and comply within the legal speed limit.
And of course, we see, Inspector Alfred, recently we had quite a few accidents unfortunately, that were, some of them fatal, that were speed related.
Speed related. And that's why we come to the studio and we enforce the need for us to comply with the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act. There's a legal speed limit within Tobago, because our roadways are limited and our space is very, very limited. And we believe that persons, if you want to get to your destination on time, you need to leave home on time. Ensure that you wear a seat belt. Ensure your vehicle is roadworthy. As you mentioned, that our vehicle inspectors were on the street, and it's not to scare you or to hinder you or to inconvenience you, to ensure it's for your own safety and the safety of others.
You know, people like to say now that the inspectors are here to make some money for the government.
Well, I would say that, I mean, if you decide to give the government your money by not having your vehicle in compliance, that is up to you, right? Because it is, as you mentioned, it is a revenue-making venture as well, indirectly, by your action or inaction or fail to comply with the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act.
But of course, there is some legitimacy to, ensuring that your vehicle is road safe. Because I think we had one of the accidents we had, I think might have been over Carnival. There was some issue with the vehicle that perhaps led to that accident and a fatality.
Yes, and that is unfortunate, because a life lost cannot be replaced. So that's why we tell persons, do your own personal checks, go to the mechanic and carry out a vehicle check. And the persons are aware of the requirement, but some persons just believe that they can push the envelope a bit just to go beyond a little bit forward. For the need for speed, it is not necessary.
And so it's interesting how you say that, because there are some roads in Tobago that you cannot be speeding on. And I think it was last week I was at one of my favorite places, Cafe Donglo, when we heard an accident happening. And we heard the vehicle just race down the street, and then the big bang.
The big bang, yes.
Right? And unfortunately, the person that was hit was someone with two children in the vehicle,
Correct.
you know, innocently making the corner, and then this car just comes speeding down straight into them.
Yes, and that's why you see more of a police presence on the streets to ensure that persons comply with it. And that area that you mentioned, that's in the Chauvin Road Police Station District. And we have no parking. If you go there now, you'll see no parking signs there erected. You will also see the clearly marked and visible signs on the roadway. But within a built-up area, drivers and motorists are expected to conduct themselves in a responsible manner, because that is a built-up area. It's a residential area as well, and there's a few commercial activity on that corner. So that's why we come to the public and say, ensure that you comply with the road traffic laws, because, you know, we could have had a very serious fatality in that instance.
Yes, because like I said, the bang that was heard from that was quite loud.
Correct.
And you know, and then we were all like, you know, but why was this person even speeding to begin with?
There's no need for speed.
There was no need for that speed, because you can't go far.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know, I mean, switching now to just some of like how the Easter was, because we had quite a lot of activities over the weekend. Few of them involving fast cars and so on. You know, I mean, how did it go?
But it went quite well. We had a lot of car shows, as you mentioned, and it's a lot of private parties. But we must say to the promoters, they complied with our guidelines and our what we require of them. There was adequate police officers deployed at these events. But however, within the whole exercise, particularly let's look at the car shows, persons are guided and they're advised. We also ask the promoters to advise them, when you leave the stage, you know, your vehicle is on our public roads.
Yes.
You must comply within the speed limit. The show is over, the display is over. Your vehicle must be in compliance to the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act 4850. So the flashing lights and the loud music, you will be charged. Some of them were charged. Some of the participants were charged right after the show, because, you know, you want to continue displaying your pimp ride, the pimp up
you know,
ride.
you still have the hype and so on.
You still have the hype. But remember, the show is over, and you must comply with the laws of Trinidad and Tobago.
And we heard some reports that that some of the village councils were charged for vehicles that were parked outside of their event. And I'm just looking to see if you could give us some more details.
Not necessarily the village council. The drivers and persons who were in charge of the vehicles were indiscriminately parked. Right? So it doesn't really go on the account or on the charge of the village council. We try to work together. Community partnership, our #1 strategic goal. During the planning and the build up to the events, we have meetings with the organizers and ensure that we are on the right page. Your parking arrangement, your security arrangement, these are all topics for discussion. And, you know, sometimes they themselves have no control over the activity of other persons. You know, that's not on their hand. But we are there to enforce the law, and that we did.
You know, some people complain that the police is out there to, you know, make business, etc., difficult. But I want you to set that record straight, because that the opposite is true.
Of course, we are there not to inconvenience. Some persons say I heard someone say that the police like to block the hustle, block a man hustle. It's not that, you know. Law and order must be maintained. We have a society with laws, and when there's absence of law, there's anarchy, there's disorder, you know, so we must set these things in place. There's something called the broken window theory. If we don't fix the minor things, it will grow. What you allow will continue, and what continue will become a habit. So therefore, we as law enforcement officers, we are tasked with that responsibility to ensure the law is enforced. In Tobago, particularly, we understand the economic activities, and we applaud entrepreneurship. However, but it must be done within the limits of the law.
And, you know, we have a tendency in Tobago where we like to, you know, park as close as possible to where we have to go, because for some reason we don't want to walk.
Yeah, and strange enough, when we travel to other countries, we comply and we walk the distance, especially particularly some of us when we go to Trinidad to shop. We park in a certain area, park in a park aid, and then we shop the whole of Port of Spain walking with our big bags, and we walk the whole of Port of Spain. But in Tobago, we want to park exactly where we want to step off. But there are consequences to that. You know, when you are parked illegally, you could be ticketed or you could be towed, and you paid a much more fee than you expect to pay. Just a little walk. So sometimes when you park in a designated area, you have the confidence that your vehicle and items are safe.
Give me an idea of what are some of the fines that are in place for parking illegally.
Well, it varies. Several breaches go in excess of $800. And so when we look at the economic balance of it, it's not worth the chance that you take. Some person, based on the offense, could pay up to $1,200 or even more for just 5 minutes. Sometimes the person will say, officer, I just want to run inside and come back. By the time you take to run inside and come back, you will cause an obstruction that will keep back the flow of traffic. There are persons with medical emergencies that sometimes are hindered by indiscriminate parking vehicles. Emergency vehicles are hindered so many times on our streets in Tobago because of poor parking. We have our emergency health services, we have the fire service, we have the police officers going to deal with a situation, and because of indiscriminate parking, you know, we are hindered at times because it could be your relative, lives that may be in danger.
And you know, sometimes we even don't realize that some of the parking spaces might be in front of a fire hydrant.
That as well is an offense. So we look at all these when we take into consideration what we look for whilst on patrol, or especially on traffic duty. But just that the general public, I mean, generally people comply, I must say, people comply, but there are just a few that believe that they can do whatever is convenient to them only.
So how much tickets were given out over the weekend?
Well, I do not have that statistics, but I could get that for you because we were robust in our activities. Sometimes the information coming in so fast. So the information will be tabulated today, Monday, for the entire week for Easter for presentation. And we will get that figures for you.
All right. And then moving ahead, now we still have quite a few more events happening in Tobago. We have, for instance, jazz coming up and so on, and those are going to be massive events. What is in place for some of these things?
Well, of course, the district where these activities are taking place, the district commanders will have their investigators on the field working with the promoters to ensure that they're in compliance. And having said that, we want to ensure, because we have some active events that we had to deal with in a particular way. When the court grants your license, please ensure that you are in total compliance with the conditions of all that is stipulated by the magistrate.
And this is in terms of the bar licenses and so on?
Correct. Make sure you are in total compliance. But the police, the customs officers, they have the powers bestowed upon them to stop your activity, to ensure. Don't cut corners, please. Do what you are required to do in accordance to your license, according to the order of the chairman of the licensing committee, which is the magistrate who gives an order as to what is to be done, what fees to be paid. Make sure you pay all fees and all that is required of you. That includes also the police strength for your event. There is no cutting of costs. Right? So we just want to say that. So for the events coming up, persons ensure that you are safe, your property is safe. There are some activities that will foster for children to attend. We have several occasions during the Mount Pleasant activity. We hear the announcer saying that there's a child here looking for a guardian or the parent. So we want to ensure that you have total control of your ward, of your child, of the person that you are responsible for. So that is our activities for guidance for these upcoming events. Ensure that your property before you leave home is properly secured.
Yes.
In your haste to get to that event, please ensure that your property at home is safe. Ensure that your child or even the elderly that you leave at home is being properly watched over by a responsible adult. Yes.
I mean, have you guys seen a rise in reports of incidents against children this year?
Well, gladly no. There has been a decline. And I believe that persons are complying with that, with those guidelines that we give out here during these programs such as these. And we just want to congratulate the public and really continue to pay attention to your children as they go about their activities. But these large mass events, you know, sometimes it's difficult to keep an eye on them, but you have to do your best to keep them within your view. And do not take too much children that you cannot control. Sometimes you want to take a neighbor child, you want to take a niece and nephew, together with your children, and then you have all these children that you have to supervise, provide meals for, take to the washroom, take them, one want to do one activity, the other want to do another activity, and you're unable to control, to have an eye on them or even have a hand on them. So you take what you can manage.
And then when it comes to, like home invasions, what's been happening there?
Well, fortunately, we have not had a major indicator that this is something that is predominant in Tobago. We want to thank the public again for ensuring and complying with some of the instructions that we gave here, particularly your lighting not on your premises, your security upon your premises. Ensure that you're able to see on the outside. Most home invasion take place at night. Right? So they want to make sure that your yard and your exterior is properly lit and secured.
And what about in terms of the perpetrators? Because sometimes these are serial perpetrators who do multiple homes. Like, and we've had. I know we've had some of that in the past. Have we been able to, close in on some of those people that are doing these crimes?
Well, I cannot give out their names here, but I can tell you that they are listed on their categories as priority offenders, which we have been targeting to ensure that they are brought before the law. There are some persons that we know that have the propensity to commit such offenses. And what we do, we inform the public through our station councils. Those are the persons that are working together with the police officers within various communities to ensure that they share the word. They assist us a lot. They give out crime pamphlets to make themselves harder targets. They continue to work alongside with us in our ventures and in our activities to ensure that these activities, home invasions in Tobago, is an anomaly, really. And for one home invasion in Tobago is something that will really set off the alarm, right? And thankfully, we are able to share that information to make yourself a harder target. Back in the day when we were able to leave our windows open, our doors unlocked, because this is Tobago, that has since changed. That has since changed. And the persons are now investing in proper home security, alarms, cameras, even dogs. Very, very, very good.
All right. And, as we keep going along, we're seeing some instances where, at least in Trinidad, where people who are closing up their businesses and that sort of thing are being attacked. Because, at the end of the day, you would have accumulated a certain amount of cash from your sales and that sort of thing. What are some of the best ways or the safest ways that business owners can handle their cash and so on, so that they are not victims of robberies?
Some business owners, unfortunately, they try to cut costs by doing major deposits by themselves. You see, sometimes we become what we say creatures of habit and pattern. Your pattern and your habits are easily identified and easily mimicked and easily monitored by persons who are looking at you. You never know who's looking at you to learn your activity and your pattern. Hence the reason we try to tell persons that we always emphasize this: do not be predictable in your deposits. So sometimes we even encourage you to hire a private security company, a reputable private security company, to make your deposits. And also, if your business is located within a certain police district, you can come to the station and say, I am going to make a deposit, but I really need to have some security or a little escort. So then the patrol will escort you to the financial. We will do that. We are saying that sometimes it is not worth trying to cut costs to prevent you spending extra money to keep your money safe and your life safe. Because the most important thing is your life. Even though your money could be insured, your life, you are irreplaceable. So what we are saying that your activity sometimes encourages criminal activity because of your action or inaction. So we want to encourage persons to, sometimes during the day, you can make small deposits during the day. Or some odd hours. Even we try to let people know that it is not advisable for your staff or all your staff to know of your deposit activities. So then most of the activities are internally based. And the person within your organization who is closest to you sometimes know everything about you. And you do not know their friends and associates or their intention. Right? So a little unpredictability will help.
Now, recently, I guess over the past couple of years, we've had some instances where the business itself was robbed, and it was because of, the involvement of workers.
Staff.
Of staff. What can you tell me about in terms of how much of that has happened?
Right. These are internal conspiracies, and most of the robberies within business places where there is certain amount of staff, we sometimes start looking internally first, right? Internally, most of the time they're internal conspiracies that come to the surface. So therefore, we advise business people, when you are hiring staff, ensure that the systems are in place, a certificate of character, background checks. That is very, very important. So that you ensure that you have these systems in place, that you have the right person doing the right thing, the best fit for the right spaces.
All right. Well, I want to thank you so much, Inspector Alfred, for being on with us and just giving us a perspective on what's been happening here in Tobago as it relates to crime. Now, I mean, I know it's really extremely important that the public helps in terms of giving that information to the police so that we can get that crime solved. So tell me about the ways that people could get connected with the police, just in case they don't know.
Well, I'm aware that there's an issue on a level of mistrust.
Yes.
With the system, the police service at this time, but we are working assiduously to build confidence and trust between the police and the public. There are anonymous formats you can use. You have 1-800 tips. We have the Crime Stoppers you can call. In Tobago space, you can call it 211 as well. That is anonymous to share that information. Your name is not required, and your phone number, your address is not required. Just call and give that information, and we'll be able to deal with it.
All right, great.
Yes.
Thank you again for being on with us. And viewers, please don't go anywhere because we've got a lot more coming up after the break.
Tobago updates.